Okay, there was some discussion at the very beginning of this call about the provocative title of my talk, Why Her and Not Me, How You Can Be the One Reporters Call. And I find that consultants and attorneys and accountants, many of us are rather competitive by nature because we have to fight to get our clients, and then we have to fight to do the work and fight to keep them. And so the question, why her and not me, arises when you see someone with a similar business to yours quoted in the news, and you're thinking, I should have been that person. How come that person is being quoted in the news and not me? And I'll tell you, there's a very simple reason, and that is reporters call the people they know. They haven't called you Mr. or Ms. business owner or Mr. or Ms. consultant because they don't know who you are. And they don't know what you have to say that would be so relevant and helpful to their readers and their audience. Reporters don't call the people that they've never heard of. What you will learn today is how to connect with a reporter in a professional manner. You will send a reporter a media profile, and that is the handout that you received earlier this morning, which we will walk through on a step-by-step basis so that you can learn how you can develop a media profile. And included in that media profile is a worksheet so that you can even develop your own media profile and then show it to me, and I'm happy to review it with you in a complimentary consultation. You will also learn today how to assemble a media list. So you will know which reporters you should be getting in touch with, and you will be able to find their email addresses. So important for communication when hardly anyone is in the office to answer the phone. I encourage you also to develop a media-friendly website. We will learn more about that later today. And finally, when you do get in that news story, you must understand how you can promote it so that clients and referral sources, prospective clients, and even other reporters will read that news story and see it and know that you are a reliable and authoritative and accessible resource for comment on similar issues. Now, if we were all in the same room, I would ask you, why do you want to be in the news? And it's not only to attract clients. So take a minute and think to yourself, why is it that I am on this webinar so that I can learn how to get in the news? What is it that being in the news will do for me and for my business? Now, one of the things that you might think about, and you can compare your list to mine, is to gain referrals. Because it's not the first person that you meet. You are in Beacon because you want to refer your contacts to the people in your Beacon circle, and you want to refer the people in your Beacon circle to your contacts. That is, after all, how I came to you today. I met Barbara Taylor through another networking association, and she introduced me to Mark Kesty, and that's how I got to be here today. So being in the news works the same way. When your referral sources see you quoted in the news, they will think, aha, Janet is talking about a problem that my client Trisha has. I should introduce them. Here's another reason to be in the news. You want to build your reputation and your brand. You want to be known as the coach who, like Harris Gubin, can help people who are franchisees and help them resolve their business problems. Or you want to be known as the consultant who can help businesses that are in a turnaround situation. Maybe you want to develop alliances and partnerships with others who have complementary resources so that you can work together on solving client issues. What about maintaining contacts? Think of all the people that you know in your many business, and social circles. The people that you went to college and to graduate school with, the people that you worked with on a previous project, the people that you worked with on a prior employer, the people who you serve on a committee with and who are members of other social organizations. What about recruiting employees? Doesn't everyone want to work for that hot company that's always getting in the news? And I don't only mean Apple and Google and Amazon and Facebook. And finally, if you do work in the public sector, you can be on the radar of local elected officials so that they will see that you are a ready resource to contact when they have certain kinds of problems to solve. So now if reporters call the people they know and they don't call someone they've never heard of, we are going to walk through the steps of creating your media profile. So I hope that you have handy the sample that was emailed to you earlier this morning and you can follow along. Now I listen to WIIFM, and so do you. And so do your client and your prospective client and your referral sources. Everyone listens to the world's greatest radio station, WIIFM. And if you haven't heard of it, it's called What's in It for Me? Because this is what everybody thinks about. Why should I care about what you have to say? And this is how reporters think too. So I am now going to help you understand by asking 3 very vital questions that your media profile is going to answer for a reporter. The first question is, why you? Why should a reporter listen to you? What makes you a reliable and authoritative and accessible source? How can you show that you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in this particular locality, in this particular geography, in this particular industry? Why you? And the second question a reporter is going to ask is, why now? The reporter didn't hear from you last month or even last week. What is happening now in the marketplace or in the industry that people need to know about? Is there a change in legislation or a deadline? Is there a compliance issue? Is there a trend that people need to be more aware of so that they can capitalize on that trend and use that to grow their business? And the third question, and this is the most important thing you will learn from me today if you learn nothing else, is why should anyone care? Why should the readers or the listeners of this particular media outlet care about what you have to say? In other words, how will they use your insight to save time, save money, and make more money? Right? Because our role as business owners and consultants is to work with others and to take the weight of the world off their shoulders so that they can save time and save money by having us do it correctly. And then they can focus on their business, which is making more money. So your 3 primary questions with your media profile are, why you? What makes you a reliable, authoritative, and accessible source? Why now? What is happening that people need to know about now? And why should anyone care? Because if they only knew what Janet or Harris or Mark knows, they would save time, save money, and make more money. Now, I'm saying, why should anyone care? But let's think about who is the audience that should care. Because as you know, you can't work with every client and everybody. So you want to be narrowly defining who is your audience and be in front of them so that they will want to hear more about what you have to say. Now, I'm talking specifically about reporters, and you can say, Janet, this is all very well and good, but how do we know that this is what reporters want to hear? Why you, why now, and why anyone should care? And I'll tell you, here's a reporter from a legal publication who says, I want a 50-word explanation of what an attorney might know about a subject so that I can determine whether it is worth calling the attorney. Now, if this is a reporter from a legal publication, all reporters think the same thing. So let's consider the media profile and develop something that admittedly is a little more than 50 words, but it will describe what you know about something so that the reporter will think, aha, this person understands what's going on in the marketplace. I need to talk to this person, whether in the moment or at some future date when that question arises. So take out the media profile sample and we'll walk through it. What is a media profile? It is not a resume that lists your experience and your education. And it is not your bio with all the awards and achievements and the articles you've published. All of that information is available on your website and on your LinkedIn profile. And if it's not, put it there. Instead, what a media profile is a professional introduction to a reporter so that they will understand how to get in touch with you, what you can talk about, and what people need to know so that they can save time, save money, and make more money. So up at the top, to make it easy to get in touch with you, you're going to have your contact information. And here is mine, just in case you want to get in touch with me. It has my title, the name of my company, my address, my phone number, my email address, and my website. So if the reporter wants to get in touch with me, it's very easy to find me. They have all the information that they might need. Now, the next thing is to summarize my background, and not very long, just 3 or 4 sentences. So take a look at this. I am a public relations and marketing consultant with more than 30 years experience, and I work with clients in the legal sector. I focus on attorneys who have a small firm or have a solo practice. So it's very clear what it is that I do and what is my target market. I work with attorneys who have small firms or solo practices. I have a lot of experience, and these are my areas: public relations and marketing. Now, let's have a little more detail and color about the kind of work that I do and the more specific industry market. I actually work with more than attorneys as my target audience, but I'm being specific here just to help you focus. So one thing that I do is media relations. I help attorneys by introducing them to reporters, and I also help them prepare for those conversations. I help attorneys with their website content and with their LinkedIn profiles, so that when reporters do look to have a conversation, they will see that they are polished and professional. And I also help them with their marketing communications. So this is a little more granular, and it's in a bullet point format, so it's very easy to scan, not a lot of words. What are the trends on the horizon and the hot topics that people need to know more about? This is what reporters want to know. They know what happened already. Everybody knows what happened already. They want to know what's going to happen before it happens. So let's think of a hot topic that no one is paying attention to, and it requires a sophisticated consultant who can explain why this topic is so important and can decipher it and decomplicate it. I would talk about the importance of your digital presence, your website, your LinkedIn profile, and I would also talk about the importance of your online activity, how to be more active in using the social media platforms. Finally, you're not just a piece of paper. You are a human being with ideas. So let's give a sample quote. This will give the reporter the idea that you are a person who is thoughtful and has ideas to share. So my quote says, attorneys need to incorporate media strategy into their litigation strategy when they represent the plaintiff, because if they can get a news story, it puts pressure on defense counsel. But when they represent the defendant, they need to anticipate that the other side will use the media to make their case. In other words, whatever side you are in litigation, you should be aware of the power of media strategy in your litigation strategy. So you can see this adds a little more color and depth to the simple facts of what it is that I do in my practice. Finally, I'm a very busy consultant and I may not have time to answer my own phone. So I have the contact information of my assistant or the contact information of the public relations consultant who is handling my media outreach. So here's the person that you can get in touch with if you want to reach with me. It's May Lee at this phone number or at this email address. So you can see how this media profile sets the stage for a reporter to inquire, here is a person who understands what's happening in our marketplace, whether it's by industry or geography. They have ideas that people need to know more about, so they will save time, save money, make more money. They're making themselves available to me. I just have to use this phone number or this email address, and then I will have the source that I need for ready comment, either in this moment or at some future date when that topic rolls around. Now, when you think about which reporters you want to be in touch with, I encourage you to think like a reporter with the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Okay, so here is the who. Who is it that you want to read the news story? You cannot be in touch with everyone in the marketplace. Some people have no interest. So you want to focus on who is most likely to be interested in the resources and the insights that you are bringing to the table. Now you want to think about what idea is it that they're going to read about and what will they do with this idea? So my idea, for example, was how media strategy should be a part of litigation strategy. So I'm only interested in litigators. I'm not interested in attorneys who do trust and estates or who do transactions. And what is it that they will do with this idea? Well, I'm hoping that they realize that they don't know enough about media strategy for their litigation, so they will get in touch with me. Now, when is it that they are going to want to follow up on this idea? Is this time sensitive? Is this something where there's a deadline so people have to be in compliance? For example, in recent days, we've learned that companies that have more than 100 employees have to make sure that they are all vaccinated. And there's a deadline so that companies need to be in compliance. But there are other issues that come to light that necessarily are timeless. They're evergreen. They should always be aware of what's going on in the marketplace and how they could perform better. So think about who you want to read the news story, what idea will they read about, and what will they do next? And is it particularly time sensitive? Where is it that they are looking for news? Are they reading the daily newspaper? Are they reading a weekly newsletter? Are they reading a monthly industry magazine? You want to be wherever it is that your readers are looking for more information. And finally, as I've said before, WIIFM, what's in it for me? Why should anyone care about what it is that you have to say? You have to prove that your idea will help someone else save time, save money, and make more money. So now we have figured out where it is that we want to be reaching our readers, our potential clients, our referral sources, and we're going to assemble the media list. It may be daily or weekly community newspapers. It may be magazines for general business or specific to your industry. It may be newsletters. It may be blogs of known sources who are looking for people for comment. So how do you know which ones to get in touch with? The best thing to do is to look on the client's website and see what articles have previously mentioned them. Because if they're in a particular article, in a particular newsletter or magazine or newspaper, then that's where you want to be, because that's where they want it to be. But what if that doesn't exist? Then see where their competitors are being mentioned, because your client would like to be everywhere that their competitor is being mentioned as well. And if that doesn't exist, then look online and see what are other clients and other industry sources that are being mentioned in diverse publications. How is it that you can get in touch with these reporters? You want to look for their email address. And many times in the reporter's byline, you can figure out their email address. In many publications, they will provide the email address of the reporter. So here's one. It's from a USA Today affiliated publication. And it says, if you can't read it at the very bottom, Joseph Spector is the government and politics editor for USA Today. He can be reached at, and there's his email address right there. So easy. Not only that, his Twitter handle, if you wanted to get in touch with him there. Maybe the publication has a masthead. Many magazines have this, and they list all the reporters and their editors and their email addresses and their beats, and sometimes even their phone numbers. Now, I'm in New York, so I chose Crane's New York Business, and perhaps you can't see this very clearly, but I'll tell you, it lists the reporters, their beats, their email addresses, and their phone numbers. It makes it very easy for you to identify who is it that covers financial services, who is it that covers retail, and then you can go in and figure out what you want to say to this person and follow up with them. Think about reporters who are active on social media. Many of them have a Twitter account. And guess what? Here is Lisbeth Beltran, and she says right in her Twitter bio, tips, chisme. Chisme is Spanish for gossip. So she gives her email address right in her Twitter bio. And why is that? She doesn't want you to send her information on Twitter where the entire world can see it. No, if you have a tip or an item of gossip, she wants you to email her, and she's making it so easy to get in touch with her. Many reporters have their own website, and they gather all their articles there. And they even say, as Brian Pascas does, to contact me, please reach out through email. Here is my email address. So what could be easier than finding the email address of a reporter? They can have it in their byline in the actual article. The publication has a masthead which lists the reporters, editors, and their topics. You can look on their Twitter account or on their own website, and you can make it very easy for yourself to get in touch with these reporters by email. You can also contact them on LinkedIn. And if you're really, really stuck, then you can contact a public relations professional like myself. I subscribe to Cision, which is one of several media databases, and it lists hundreds of thousands of reporters and freelance writers and publications. And it has their email address, their phone number, and their Twitter handle, and so forth. So there's no reason why you can't identify reporters at the discrete publications where your clients and your prospective clients and your referral sources and everyone else in your circle is looking for information and ideas about how they can save time, save money, and make more money. Now, it's very easy to put together your media list, and this is the format that I recommend. Use Excel. And in the first column, you have the name of the outlet, then you have the name of the person. Separate the first name and the last name so that you can do a merge mail in the future. You have their email address, you have their phone number, and keep track of the last time you were in contact with them. You don't want to be contacting them very often. I suggest that you contact reporters at most quarterly, because the industry doesn't change all that much. You're not going to contact them every week or every month, but quarterly is often enough for you to update your media profile with new topics. But if you have news, something that people do need to know more about, like you've opened a new office, or you've hired a new consultant, or you concluded a major transaction, then you can issue a press release. I'm not going to go into press releases here. There is a lot of information about that online. Don't be contacting reporters all the time. They get many more emails than you do, 500, I'm sure. And so if you pursue them too aggressively, they will block you and delete you, and it's not going to be helpful to you. So now we have identified how to introduce yourself to reporters. We have identified how to locate reporters. We have identified how to find a reporter's email address. The first thing a reporter is going to do when they find out about you is look at your website. So you want to make sure that your website is media friendly. And now this is a sensitive question. Are you proud of your website? And when was the last time you updated it? If your website is more than 3 or 5 years old, then people are going to think, what's going on here? How can I know that this person has their finger on the pulse of the market if their website looks like it's from the year 2005? So I encourage you to take a good look at your website, or have someone else look at it and say, does it look like it's been updated recently and that it's up to par? I want you to make sure that it's easy to find the most basic information and provide your address and your phone number and your email address on every page. And a simple way to do that is to have a bar at the very top of the website where you display that information, and that will be repeated on every page. Don't make people look for something, hand it to them so that they don't have to look any further. You probably have a list of all the services you provide to your clients, so make that clear and accessible. Make the menu of how to navigate your website clear and accessible. And also, you want to have a place where people can contact you for information and to get more help. It's important that your website be demonstrating your authority. And the way to do that is to use social proof. You have case studies where you explain how you helped a client, what their situation was, and how you got them to a new and improved result. And you probably have client testimonials where people say, everything is different now that I worked with Janet or Mark or Harris. What about newsletters? These are ways that you can be constantly in touch with your audience, whether they are past clients or whether they are referral sources or people in your networking circles. And you want to have all your newsletters on your website. Just because I'm meeting you now in September, you might have written something in February that I would find helpful, but if it's not on your website, I won't be able to see it. Have you published any articles in newspapers or in journals or in timely publications? Those should be included as well. If you're quoted in other news stories, display that information, because people will think someone else thought that this was a reliable and authoritative source. They published an article, they quoted her in a news story. So this person has got the goods. If you have given speaking presentations, if you have appeared on podcasts, that again is social proof. It shows that you are a reliable and authoritative source, and you are freely sharing your information and ideas. So I encourage you to take another look at your website and make sure that you are displaying this social proof so that people will understand you have timely ideas and others believe in you. Now, once you get your news story, you want to be able to quote it and distribute it. because not everybody reads every publication all the way through every day and every time it appears. So I encourage you to copy the article, save it, and print it as a PDF. And then you can put that on your website and save the URL of that page on your website as a bit.ly link. Perhaps you know that bit.ly is a way to take a very long URL and shrink it. And then every time someone clicks on that link, then you will know, checking your bit.ly account, that someone has done so. So you can keep track of how popular the article is. Now, once you have saved the article and you have put it on your website and you have created the link, put it in your email signature. You're probably sending 50 emails a day, and that is your free promotional real estate. And this is what it looks like, right? So I have my contact information in my email signature, and now you can see, here's an industry news article, tips to be more quotable. So right there, you can see every time I send an email, people will see that I was in this news story, and they can click on the link and it will take them to that page on my website where they can read the article itself. Think about the article where you were quoted and mention it in your newsletter or your blog, so that everyone who didn't see it in the original publication can now have access to it, using the link to drive people to the article on your website. You can use the article as a post on LinkedIn. And here's an example. An attorney of my acquaintance, Nancy Merzel, was quoted in the New York Times. And so you can see she wrote about it as a LinkedIn post. But because she's concerned about trademark and copyright, she linked to the New York Times website and not to her own website. I wouldn't have done that, but she's a trademark attorney, copyright attorney. She understands these issues. You can add the article to your LinkedIn profile. There's a section on LinkedIn called Featured. It sits between the About section and your Activity section. And it's like the bookshelf in a library. And you can put all kinds of information there, including newsletters, podcasts, videos, and articles in which you've been quoted. So here you can see an example of someone who is posting articles where they were quoted in their featured section on LinkedIn. And that way, more people will see it. You can be in a discussion group on LinkedIn and ask a question. Ask a question, and then your quote is the answer. So a hypothetical situation. What happens when X, Y, and Z? Here's the answer. My quote in this particular article. You can use your article as more credibility and social proof. Introduce yourself to podcast hosts. Maybe you want to be seen talking about the specific issue where your target market is looking for information. You can even introduce yourself to more reporters, but you can't talk about the same thing. You have to give a little different twist or a different angle so that reporters will not say exactly the same thing as what their competitor at another publication did. Maybe your topic is so hot, it should be something discussed in a panel discussion at an industry association event. So you can speak to Beacon, as I am now, or you can speak to the Cosmetic Manufacturers Association. And if you're not ready for speaking engagement, then think about writing instead an article that can be published by the industry association. So let's summarize what it is that we have been talking here. We have said you need a media profile to professionally introduce yourself to reporters so they will know why you are a reliable, authoritative, and accessible source. Why now people need to hear what you have to say because there is a deadline or there is something time sensitive, or it's just something that has long been overlooked and people need to take advantage of it. And why should people care? Because if they only knew what Janet or Mark or Harris or Barbara knows, they would save time and save money by hiring us to take care of that knotty problem so that they could focus on running their business and making more money. When you are in touch with reporters, you want to make sure that they are the ones who care about what it is you have to say, and they are going to be targeting the audience that you want to reach. It's very easy to locate these publications, see where your clients are mentioned in the news, see where their competitors are mentioned in the news, and then identify the reporters that cover those topics and find their email address. It's either in their article itself, or it's in the masthead, or it's in their Twitter bio, or it's on their personal website where they keep track of all their articles. Reach out to them quarterly. It doesn't have to be more often, so that they will consider you as a potential source. You want to make sure that once the reporter has received your media profile, they will go to your website or your LinkedIn profile, or both. And these will substantiate that you are a reliable and authoritative source by showcasing your experience with case studies, client testimonials, your newsletters, other places where you have published or been quoted, and any speaking engagements you have had. And once you do get that news story, you want to promote it so that other people will share it. Not everybody reads every publication, every issue, every day, every week, every month. So you want to find opportunities by including a link to that article in your email signature, in your newsletter, in any exchanges that you're having with your colleagues, in your LinkedIn profile, creating a new topic for discussion, whether on a podcast or a panel discussion at an industry event or an article for an industry newsletter. And all of this will consolidate your stature as the resource to talk about specific issues in specific industries and target geographical markets. So here's my contact information. I'm happy to speak with you in a complimentary strategic communications consultation. You can work on your worksheet for your draft media profile. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or see me on Twitter. I have a monthly newsletter. I have a lot of information on my website that you can use that includes samples and tips of best practices for your communications. And I'm happy, Zoe, to take questions.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Hi, it's Harriet. It is very nice to virtually meet you. So here's the interesting thing. In our neighborhood, when I take a walk in the morning, I pass maybe, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 houses, and I would say 5 of them get the newspaper, including our own. And it seems like you've been talking a lot about the print today. And I was wondering if it's different if you wanted to approach like a TV station.
No, it's not different, but I do recommend that you get a little more experience riding a tricycle before you ride a motorcycle. So I encourage you to deal with the print media first, and then you can be on TV later, because there's a whole other dynamic that goes on with TV. Just because people don't get the physical newspaper doesn't mean they're not reading it online. I personally read the New York Times online, and I get the physical newspaper. So don't think that because there's no paper at the foot of the driveway that they're not getting the newspaper. They're reading it. They're just reading it online. And guess what? The same reporters write for the newspaper online as write in print.
So is there any tips you have for people other than print?
What I'm saying is that if you want to reach out to reporters who are on TV, it works the same way. They're not going to call you if they don't know who you are. They're not going to call you if they don't know what you have to say and what's important and why other people should care. So reporters think the same way. The thing is that the bar on TV is somewhat higher because they want to know that this is not your first rodeo, that you've had experience, that you've been on other kinds of shows and have other kinds of live interviews before, because it's just riskier for them and it's riskier for you. So I would encourage you to have a little more press interaction experience before you aim for TV.
Yeah.
The second thing about TV is, as glamorous and as powerful and as wonderful it is, if I don't see it in the moment, it didn't happen. Because not every segment on TV is recorded online. So you may speak on TV and only the people who are watching in that moment saw it. Whereas in print or in a newspaper or magazine, since those are online, they're guaranteed to live forever.
Well, Janet, isn't it true that readership is up in almost all of the major newspapers because of digital readership?
This is also correct. Yes, thank you.
What do you think about?
I hope so, Harriet. I hope I've answered your question, which is that there are additional hurdles and risks to being on broadcast, and the same rules apply. The same rules apply, but the rules are a little more. How can I say this? There's more risk involved with TV as a first-time experience. I would encourage you to move in that direction by taking the initial steps of getting more experience talking with reporters first.
You know, there's a few people on this call right now who have their own TV show. That's why I was asking, because like I haven't been a lot in print, but I've been a lot on TV shows, excuse me, that members of Beacon here on this call have their own TV show. So that's what I was wondering, how you make that leap from one TV show to like other TV shows.
Well, I think it works in the same way. I mean, if you've been on several TV shows, then you can splice together all those appearances and create a reel. And then that shows that you have that experience. I was thinking more about, someone who is looking to be on, NBC or ABC or CBS or PBS or something on that order. But if you have the experience of having been on TV shows, then I would splice together those segments and create a reel, because that would show that you have substantial experience. And there's another thing that you can do as well, which is not everybody likes to watch those particular reels. So what you can do, what I mean is viewers. I mean, you can create that reel and make it available to people who come to your website as well. But not everybody likes to watch that. Instead, what I would encourage you to do is to develop transcripts of those particular segments, and even further reduce them to maybe 8 bullet points or fewer, and then create that as a separate document, so that you are taking the same content and repurposing it in a different format. So you can have the video and audio, and then you can have the transcript, and then you can have the bullet points. So that if I were to read something that had 8 bullet points of whatever it is that you're talking about, I would think, aha, that Harriet is on the ball. I'm going to watch this 12-minute segment so that I can learn in depth what these 8 bullet points are talking about. So there's an acronym in marketing communications called COPE, which stands for Create Once, Publish Everywhere. So for people who don't want to watch a segment, you can summarize it with the transcript, or you can make it available with the transcript, you can summarize it with the bullet points, and then in effect, you use that transcript and the bullet points as a way to entice them to viewing the video, which you have already declared is 12 minutes, but they know how much time it's going to take. So I hope that this is helpful to you. I was thinking more of network television and not of the television shows of the members of Beacon. And by the way, those of you who have television shows, I'm available.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And they have excellent television shows, having been on so many of them.
Janet, what do you think about the Help a Reporter Out site?
I think it's great. Do you subscribe for free,
Yes, I do.
or do you pay?
I subscribe for free. I didn't know there was a benefit to paying.
Okay, so the benefit to paying is you get it 1 hour earlier.
Mhm.
And if you subscribe for free, then you are 1 hour behind the professionals. So just think about that. The reporters are getting flooded by people who have the paid subscription, and then yours will come in at the tail end of that. I find that the HARO requests oftentimes are about lawnmowers and the history of dice. So I don't find them particularly helpful. I don't subscribe to that service for pay. I get the free service, so I'm in the same boat as you. I do subscribe to another service that I pay for, and I find that that one appears often on HARO, but it comes out multiple times a day, whereas HARO comes out 3 times a day. So oftentimes I will get a jump by subscribing to this paid service. I don't encourage you to pay for these services because whatever topic you're following, it doesn't come up often enough for you. So there you have it. You can subscribe for free, but recognize that you are an hour behind the professionals who have paid for the service.
Thank you.
Elise, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you so much, Zoe. Hi, Janet. My name is Elise Stoner, and my business is Fresh Perspective Consulting, and I help people maximize the marketing value of their events. So my question is, I noticed that you talked about podcasts as sort of almost like a secondary resource. Would you recommend utilizing this same sort of media profile and a media list for podcasts independent of your reporter list? What's your take overall on this getting on podcasts?
Oh, I think podcasts are great. And in fact, I wrote a newsletter called, how to be a podcast guest. So if you get in touch with me, I'll send you a link to that newsletter. Podcasts are great if you have identified the ones that are specific to your target market. And you can do what I just explained to Harriet. For people who don't want to listen to the whole podcast, you can provide the transcript. Many of them provide the transcript automatically, and you can reduce it to 8 or 10 bullet points so that you hit the highlights. But yes, there are podcast directories so that you can look for podcasts that are specific to your industry, which is events, or maybe the industry that you work with, because it might be biopharma, or it might be financial services or accounting or whatever it is that you do. So in the newsletter, I talk about some of these directories, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but there is a paid service that you can use to get even more information about these podcasts. And it has virtually every podcast that you can think about and how to contact them and so on and so forth. I don't subscribe to that because my clients are not that interested, but if you get in touch with me, I will get that name for you, and it might be worth your while to use that paid service to get access to many, many, many more podcasts. But my newsletter has a list of, I think, 5 directories that probably will serve your needs. And it works the same way. You want to introduce yourself to the podcast host so that you are a reliable and authoritative source, and you have ideas that people need to know about now. And you want to give examples of, speaking engagements that you've had before, so that the podcaster will know that you can think on your feet and be a fluid speaker.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
Great.
Mark?
Janet, hi, Mark Johnson with Predictive Index. Thank you. This has been very, very informative, and I appreciate your time. 2 quick questions. One, are you saying it's appropriate for us to develop a media profile and directly email it to targeted reporters, number 1? And number 2, are your services targeted towards entrepreneurs, towards solopreneurs, or only corporations and entrepreneurs? Are your services appropriate and affordable for a solopreneur?
Great. So yes, I am encouraging you to, go out there and introduce yourself with a media profile using the techniques I've described to develop something that's going to be, compelling and authoritative and and answer why you, why now, and why people should care. And yes, I tend to work with smaller businesses and consultants, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and so on. I'll give you an example. I had a dentist who invented a toothbrush, and I got his toothbrush in Dental Products Review so that dentists would buy his toothbrush and buy it in bulk and then resell it to their patients. So that's an example of a solopreneur that I worked with, and I was able to get him in a target publication that was very helpful to his business.
Great, thank you.
Oh, one more thing. All my services are listed on my website with my fee schedule.
Any other questions from anyone?
Well, I happened to be, actually got based upon contacting a reporter, actually landed up in an article, a non-business related topic in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And it was just, from writing the author of the article that I saw and happened to hit a chord that, and I received an answer and eventually landed up in May of 2020 on it, landing up in the sports section of the Inquirer. But it was just, and it happened to hit the right, reporter at the right time with the right subject. And so a lot of what Janet said kind of hit home when she laid out the process.
I'm so glad to hear it. And then I don't know your name, sir, but
Bruce
what
Rubin.
was it?
Bruce Rubin.
Okay, so what was it that you did once you got in the sports section? How did you share that?
Well, I copied the link and everybody that, when I write to people about activities that I'm involved in, I share the link of the article.
Mhm, right. No, that's great. That's great. But, as I mentioned, you run the risk of sending them to the Philadelphia Inquirer website and not to your website. I mean, I had the good fortune where my
You're right.
name, my quote, and my photo were in the New York Times talking about a project that I had worked on with a particular client. And, people were coming out of the woodwork, getting in touch with me about, this project that I had done. So, people were going to see it. And the idea is, if it is more relevant to your business, then you want to make sure that many more people are going to see it. So find a way that you can save the article, put it on your website, so that once they're on your website, they will continue to explore and learn more about you and what it is that you're doing. So good for you. And it just goes to show you, timing is everything in the marketplace. You hit the reporter with a topic that they were interested in and at the right time. And so when the moment came, they went after you. Good for you.
Right. Thank you.
If I may also add something to that, when there is an article, I often find, as Janet's talking about, making it into a PDF that not only you can brand your business, but obviously the publisher. I think that's going to get you a lot more views, because things like the Inquirer or the Business Journal have paid access. So if you're only putting the link to like the Inquirer, people can't read your article unless they subscribe. But if you create some sort of PDF, then they can read the article. You're certainly giving credit to where it was published, but you're not worried about, I've linked this thing. And I've seen this a lot in LinkedIn too, when people want to share articles, maybe that's not even about them, but just of interest. I really want to read that article, and I go and I click on it and I'm like, it's behind a paywall and I can't get to it.
Right,
So
right.
PDF is a great way to do that.
Right. And you can put, as previously published in name of publication, and have the date so that it's very clear, in case the person wants to go back to the original site. But you do want to keep yourself in good favor with the publication. So if you're going to post on LinkedIn, like I showed the example of Nancy Mertel, she could have saved that article in a way and said, thank you to reporter, Barbara Thomas of New York Times, and put @ in front of Barbara Thomas and @ in front of the New York Times so that people who were connected to them would also see the article. And then, had the link that went to the PDF, which said, as previously published in the New York Times on such and such a date. I have published a lot of articles for legal publications, the New Jersey Law Journal, the New York Law Journal, and I have on my website the attribution that says, as previously published in such and such publication. Because I think Elise makes a very good point. If you've already read three articles on that particular website, or it's behind the paywall entirely, then you're not going to win any points with the person who's trying to read it.
But it's also without permission illegal.
Right, that's why I said you have to include the attribution of where.
But even with the attribution, unless you've gotten actual permission, it's still illegal.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Yes.
Please check with your own attorney and don't follow my advice.
And the other thing I want to add real quickly too is, like, I have an article that appeared in the Pennsylvania Bar Magazine, and as part of the follow-up with the Pennsylvania Bar, they actually sent me a PDF of the article. So that's something else you could do, is when you are, doing your follow-up after the article has been published, it's perfectly okay to ask for a PDF. And oftentimes they will share that with you.
And sometimes they'll make you pay for it and it'll have their branding on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we're at 9 a.m. and based on a lot of these responses and questions, it seems like this has been very, very valuable to the crew here. And Janet, cannot thank you enough for investing some of your time with us, Beacon. And any closing thoughts or suggestions, Janet, before we conclude?
I want to point out, the experience that you have among your members, of those that have been on TV or those that have been quoted in the news. And that is that they took the initiative themselves. So the power is in your hands. You have the tools, you have the strategies and the tactics that I have explained. And I encourage you to take that step forward, because as Babe Ruth said, every strike brings me closer to my next home run. So reporters are going to call the people they know. They're not going to call you if they don't know who you are and you haven't reached out to them in a way that shows that you have something to add to the conversation, and other people will be better off for your having made that contribution. So take that step. And if you need help doing it, of course, I'm here to advise you.
Beacon is the premier executive networking organization serving the Mid-Atlantic region. To learn more, go to beaconforlife.org.